All right, welcome back for another deep dive. So today we're going to be taking a look at 11 tips for winning friends and influencing people. Now, these tips come from the book,
Cool to have a heat. Hamia
which roughly translates to, well, you guessed it,
cool.
tips for winning friends and influencing people.
Right.
We thought it'd be fun to kind of dive into these tips and maybe extract some valuable insights.
Yeah.
Because honestly, who couldn't use a little help in the friend department? Am I right?
Definitely.
But really, though, even though these tips might seem straightforward at first glance, there's actually a lot of depth to uncover when you really unpack them. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, these tips are all about building those genuine and lasting connections. And I think that's something that we all really crave, those meaningful relationships.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think we can find some really valuable stuff in these tips.
Absolutely. So let's just jump right in, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, so the first few tips seem to really focus on creating a positive and encouraging environment. Tip number 1, don't criticize, condemn, or complain.
Mm.
And then you have tips 3 and 9, which are all about appreciation and understanding. So what do you think is the thinking behind this? Like, why start with this kind of positive foundation?
Well, I think it all comes down to creating that sense of psychological safety. Like, think about it. Imagine walking into a room where you constantly feel judged versus walking into a room where you feel supported and respected. Which one are you more likely to thrive in?
Right, yeah, totally. I'd much rather be in the room where I feel comfortable and supported.
Exactly.
It's about creating that space for growth, not tearing people down.
Yeah, exactly. When people feel safe and appreciated, they're more likely to open up and contribute, even take those healthy risks that might lead to something great.
I love that. Okay, so moving on to tip number 2. Let people do what they want to do. This one really jumped out at me
Mm.
because, how do we balance that with actually getting things done? Like letting people just do whatever they want all the time might not be the most productive approach, right?
Right, of course. But I think what this tip is really getting at is tapping into that intrinsic motivation. Like, let's say you're managing a team project. Instead of micromanaging every detail, what if you let your team members choose their roles based on their strengths and interests? They're going to be way more invested and probably produce much better work, right?
Yeah, that makes so much sense. It's about giving people ownership and not just barking orders.
Exactly.
Okay, so several of these tips seem to revolve around actively listening and, understanding different perspectives. Like tips 6 and 8 specifically touch on those ideas.
Hmm.
So why do you think active listening is so crucial for building these strong relationships?
Well, I think active listening is one of the most important things you can do when you're trying to build empathy. And empathy is a key element of tip number 9. It's not just about hearing the words someone is saying, it's about really trying to see the world from their point of view. And that's how you build truly strong connections.
That's so powerful. And isn't that understanding, like you were saying, isn't that key when it comes to navigating conflict?
Absolutely.
Because tips 7 and 10 touch on this idea of handling disagreements constructively.
Yeah.
So tip number 7 encourages using polite speech and presenting facts openly, while tip number 10 suggests delivering criticism thoughtfully. So what do you think, like, why are these approaches more effective than just, straight up confrontation?
Well, I think when you approach disagreements with politeness and thoughtful criticism, you're basically aiming to de-escalate the situation. You're helping to foster open dialogue and understanding,
Makes sense.
rather than just putting someone on the defensive.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm really intrigued by tip number 5. A smile will make you charming.
Yeah.
It seems almost too simple,
Right.
but I know from experience, a genuine smile can make a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely.
So is there any science behind this?
There's a lot of science behind it. Smiling is a really powerful nonverbal cue. It triggers those positive emotions not only in the person smiling, but also in the person who's receiving the smile.
Oh, wow.
It's like this instant connection builder.
Yeah, it's like this universal language of warmth and approachability.
Exactly.
I love that. And, thinking about all these tips, from fostering that positive environment to active listening, even the power of a smile, they all contribute to tip number 11, make people feel important,
They really do.
which is really the core of it all. Because building strong relationships, whether it's in our personal lives or our professional lives, it all comes down to recognizing and valuing the people around us.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. How can you apply one of these tips to a current relationship or interaction to make a positive difference. We encourage you to really think about that and even experiment with these tips. You might be surprised at the impact these seemingly simple principles can have. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive, everyone.
See ya!
We'll see you next time. Bye.